We're now joined by Dr. Jok Madut Jok from the SUDD Institute in New York. Thanks very much indeed for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you, sir. Wonderful to be back and pleased to join you on this and your viewers.
Fantastic. So it's how important is this meeting by Sudan's president with the French president?
Well, important from whose view? I think that would be the question. If you are thinking about the Sudanese people, people who struggled for many decades to bring about an open society, a democratic society that has now been achieved since 2019 with Dr. Hamdok as the prime minister, I think they will say that the offers being made from Paris today of $1.5 billion to sort of bridge the gap between the debts owed to the international debtors by Sudan in the tune of 50 or 60 billion, and the capacity of the country to pay. If that is the question, then I think a lot of Sudanese will say, we have seen this before, this idea of debt service, this idea dating back to the structural adjustment programs and other debt service tools that have been used, including lifting of subsidies on basic commodities like bread and sugar and fuel. I don't think the Sudanese people will be dancing tonight to that news. If you are talking about the ability of Sudan to be able to join the community of nations with a good image following 30 years of dictatorship, when the loans and all those investment plans brought from outside have been used to kill the Sudanese people and never paid back, then I think Sudan will, as in the government of Sudan, will rejoice tonight for being allowed to finally be back at the table with regards to encouraging investment from outside, with regards to possibly forgiving all those debts in the end. As $1.5 billion is a good change. It's quite a bit of change that will probably allow the IMF and the World Bank to talk nicely to Sudan and possibly to forgive some of these loans with an eye to Sudan now opening its markets and its investment fields from agriculture to fuel oil production to mining in gold to everything else. If these are going to be open on a flat and level playing field for all international companies to play their games in Sudan, then I think there will be something to speak about tonight.
I suppose it's only after Bashir had gone that you were able to start even doing a full accounting of what his decades of rule had cost the country and just how long and how much time and effort it's going to take to try and fix the damage.
Well, it will take a long time, but you know, when African governments open their chests to the global north, to France, US, UK, and say to them that we are once again open for business and willing to engage with you, even if that engagement means that we will be cheated, I think there is an effort to expedite the process of admitting Sudan once again into that community of nations with the clear understanding that the Sudanese people will be cheated by the global system. I don't doubt that it will take shorter amount of time to cleanse Sudan's slate and make it look better to the West, whether it is on sponsorship of terrorism, which is now gone, whether it is about instituting development towards free and fair elections and open society democracy, whether it is opening your market up to investors from the West. I think Sudan is already on halfway through to become a good citizen in the capitalist world. But whether this will mean much to the Sudanese people who have been impoverished by 30 years of Bashir's mayhem and have been killed and driven into refugee camps and into IDP camps all across the region, I think that this deal between Paris and Khartoum leaves a lot to be desired when it comes to the ordinary people.
What do you think is in it for France? They seem to be taking a leading role in trying to help Sudan. Why would they do this?
I can think of 2 or 3 things that are in it for France. Well, first of all, France just lost one of the most formidable ally to the west of Sudan in N'Djamena, President Idriss Déby of Chad, who was the most key element in France's effort to contain the mayhem and the chaos that is going on in the Sahel, in Mali, Niger, Libya, northern Nigeria, Cameroon. And France was able to lodge itself very squarely in Chad as a launching pad for her efforts in containing all of that in the region. But now N'Djamena has lost, France has lost this person. I am sure they are trying to make inroads into the Sahel via Sudan, given that the ruling military council today in Sudan is still made up of men and no women who used to be right men of Bashir, including Hameti, including Burhan, who will now be possibly deployed to ensure that the trafficking of Muslim militants from the east, through Ethiopia, Eritrea, Yemen, Somalia, and Al-Shabaab, who are being sent into the Sahel for militant effort, Sudan will become the biggest ally in effort to curb all of that. So I think that is one thing you can say for sure is in the interest of France. Secondly, and I think perhaps the most important, is the fact that here is a country which had been the pariah in the eyes of the world, Sudan, and was abandoned by her previous allies. And now it has emerged with the possibility that the US will become very influential in Sudan. And I think France does not want to be left out in the vying for influence over Sudan, over Khartoum. As Sudan sits very strategically, to the west is the Sahel, to the east is the Red Sea, and there could not be any better place if you wanted to be a big player on African issues.
All right, so perhaps finally, Sudan wanting to rebuild and enter a new era in a democratic space, open for business and investment. But I guess there's still a number of issues at home that still need to be sorted out. Rebels in the west and even to the south in South Kordofan and the Blue Nile.
Absolutely. I think Sudan is still very much facing a specter of further disintegration following the breakaway of South Sudan. So as you say, Darfur is there with all its problems. There is South Kordofan with the Nuba Mountains and South Blue Nile. Although the various insurgencies from those regions have now joined the government led by Hamdok, the actual trickle-down effect to improve the lives of people in those areas has yet to happen. And just last month, there was a terrible massacre in Darfur where the whole history of mayhem since 2003 was revived in the minds of people who saw that. So there may be things that are to do with the internal issues that allow Sudan to look at this rapprochement with France with a smile. But there are also international issues, including the fact that Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and Egypt had been extremely influential on Sudan and which direction Sudan will take. Now, if there is a wink from France and this large sum being offered to address the debt crisis, I think Sudan might not be so malleable to the whims of the Gulf countries anymore, as they used to do in the past. As you will recall, Sudan was being pushed around to fight even in Yemen and in wars that are not her own wars, at the behest of Saudis and the sheikhs of Oman, the sheikhs of UAE and Qatar. If this presents Sudan with an opportunity to finally think locally on its own issues, addressing the conflict within the territories of Sudan without going begging anywhere else, I think this is a good moment for the Sudanese to say to the Arabs, well, we got some money from the French. It doesn't matter the color or the religion of the source of dollars. So long as we have it, we will now be prepared to run our own affairs on the games, on the rules of the game that we are responsible in keeping and monitoring.
Dr. Jok Madut Jok, thank you so much indeed for joining us. Always great talking to you, and your insights always greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time this evening.